Continuing to talk about the age of exploration, today we want to move on and begin looking at how North America became a place where other Europeans began to settle. We've already mentioned how the Spanish and, of course, the Portuguese were really dominant forces in what today we call Central and South America. And we do want to recognize that the Caribbean, the islands of that region, really kind of become claimed by a variety of different European nations during the age of exploration. But North America itself becomes a contest, if you will, between two primary players, the English and the French. All the Europeans are really going to be continuing to look west, trying to get to the east, trying to find that what will be referred to as the Northwest Passage to the east, to the markets of Asia. And while the French and the English will dominate the colonies in this area, or the holdings in this area more specifically, really you could find a variety of population numbers from several different nationalities throughout Europe: Scandinavians, Germans, Italians, really all sorts, not just the ones who had a flag flying. It says the French will explore the interior of North America. They're going to take the trade approach. Many of the explorers of the French crown are going to establish trading posts to interact with the peoples already there, interacting with the Native Americans, trading furs really, and those furs were very valuable to particularly the upper echelons of society back in Europe. They would play a part in what would be considered the sugar plantation business or enterprise in the Caribbean, but on the continent of North America, that's going to be largely trading, not huge cities or huge colonies where agricultural output was the emphasis there. So coexistence, perhaps, with the Native Americans would probably be the best description here. The English, however, will back invested colonies that are looking to really extract value from the land by controlling it. For example, the Jamestown colony, the first permanent settlement there in what would be the Virginias, as well as when Pilgrims and both Puritans would come to today what's referred to as the New England area, though they were coming for some religious freedom and not really practicing religious tolerance, they were still coming for economic purposes. The rivalry between these two nations will lead to, eventually in the 1700s, the French and Indian War, and Britain winning that war. It was really part of more of a global war known as the 7 Years' War. But Britain winning this war really kind of kicks the French off the continent and becomes kind of the sole possessor of the eastern third of North America. The Dutch were easily overrun, even though they would have had colonies and trading posts, primarily in the northern colonies at this point anyway. Native Americans' response to all of this European action on the continent, obviously they were not too happy, nor were they very favored. The English attitudes about culture, religious culture particularly, and ownership of land really ran counter to the Native American ideology. This is, of course, going to lead to war, like King Philip's War, a war in the Northeast between English settlers and Native Americans, as well as right here in our own eastern North Carolina in the early 1700s, what was called the Tuscarora War, would all have detrimental impacts on Native American populations. In other words, they will lose in the end. So all the historical impact for all of this, the establishment by Great Britain in North America brings their style of government and their culture to dominate the colonies. And these colonies, of course, would eventually become the baseline for the United States. And we can see those relationships woven within our own system still today. Also, Native Americans in this point, in this part of the New World, are once again going to lose out to these European actions and motives. All right.